Well, the true cost of cap and trade is a hot topic today in energy circles as cap and trade legislation moves through the Hill. Today, the Heritage Foundation held a panel discussion comparing cost estimates of cap and trade. Several different estimates have been debated lately. With us now, two men with very different ideas about the real cost of cap and trade. Dan Weiss is Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress. David Kreutzer of the Heritage Foundation is with us as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you, we have the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, estimating the total cost of cap and trade at $175 per household by the year 2020. The president talked about that back in June, puts that at the average American family. He says it's about the cost of a postage stamp. There's a new Treasury Department memo that's out that is talking about cap and trade generating federal receipts of up to $200 billion a year. One calculation assumes that's about $1,700 for each American household per year. Glenn Beck, of course, grabbed onto a very close number to that one. Dan, you dispute this Treasury Department memo, and you're going with this CBO estimate.
Well, first of all, Susan, CBO just came out with a new estimate last week and said that the bill is even cheaper than originally thought, about $160 per household, and that the lowest quintile in income would actually receive a net economic benefit of $125 a year. That means they'll have $125 more of income under a global warming program than under the status quo. Now, this Treasury memo was done months ago, not aimed at any bill. It was taken as sort of an outline of the Obama plan and doesn't include any of the rebates that would have occurred under such a plan back to consumers. So it's basically a red herring. And of course, the more that Glenn Beck talks about it, in my view, the more it ought to be discredited. Instead, the Congressional Budget Office has done economic modeling, and they say $160 a year per the average household, which is about the price of 6 pieces of bubble gum.
David, tell us what you were talking about today in your analysis of different cost estimates, your problem with the CBO analysis.
Well, let's look where we have commonality. We had groups at our panel today, the Congressional Budget Office, the Energy Information Administration, the Brookings Institution, not a conservative group, the Environmental Protection Agency, the National Black Chamber of Commerce. Every single representative presented economic analysis that showed there were costs. This was not an economic stimulus. Not one group presented one scenario that showed GDP, income consumption going up with cap and trade. The argument was over how much would it go down. The Congressional Budget Office didn't look at the impact on GDP. They're looking at the flow of funds.
Oh, David, yes, they did. You're mistaken about that.
In any event, so we can look at their numbers. We can look at the EPA. They take numbers from 2050. They say, look, it's $1,287 worth of cost to a household. That's adjusted for inflation. They then do something called discounting, which most environmental groups hate, and they turn that into 174, the pieces of bubble gum that Dan's talking about.
But why not include rebates and the other factors?
Because it doesn't include the impact on lost jobs from the higher energy prices. It's simply saying, here's how much money the government takes in, here's how much they spend out. It's like saying welfare payments don't have a cost to taxpayers.
So are you saying, though, that this is a more realistic estimate, this Treasury Department number?
That's a realistic estimate of how much money the government is going to take in. They're not even addressing the higher cost to the economy.
Well, first of all, David, that Treasury estimate is not an estimate of anything. It's not attached to any bill. Second of all, you apparently did not read the CBO report, because it does take an estimate on gross domestic product, and it figures as little as a penny to a dollar by 2020. In addition, the EPA found that the average household,
that's a joke if that's the case.
The EPA has found the average household will save about $84 a year on lower electricity bills because of efficiency measures, which CBO didn't even model.
Look, the EPA said it's going to cost $1,287 for a household in 1950 adjusted for inflation. That's less.
I don't understand. A household in 1950? I guess I'm confused.
2050.
Sorry.
Okay. So how you get that to a pack of bubble gum, I don't know. That's not what they're saying. You don't understand what the discounting is doing, and so you're arguing as though you do.
EPA is, there's three government, nonpartisan, independent modeling.
I was with them
EPA,
today. They all agree they're going to be costs.
And Energy Information Administration, all of them have the price between $85 to $160 per household, which at the upper range is 6 pieces of bubble gum a day.
All of the EPA uses discounting, which all the environmental groups are against. You don't know what discounting is. It's like saying a car today costs $23,000. Adjusting for inflation back to 1969, 40 years ago, $3,900. They then discount that, which is not at all applicable, and you come up with $500. That's the equivalent of what the EPA is doing.
None of these estimates include the savings that consumers are going to get from increased efficiency.
And also, you say some low-income households are actually going to benefit.
Yeah,
under
if you can,
under EPA, under CBO's estimates, economic modeling, the average household in the lowest income bracket will gain $125 by 2020 and $355 in today's dollars by
fine.
2050.
Yes, if you assume they're going to take all this money from other groups who are therefore that much worse off, the middle income groups get hammered so that they can pretend they're making somebody better off.
The middle income groups is less than $1 a day,
no, that's
according
not
to
true.
CBO.
$360,
$360, that's less than $1 a day.
You don't understand the CBO, what they're doing. You don't understand what the EPA is doing. They're taking their analysis, they're discounting, which is a fine tool, but not for giving people an idea of what it's going to cost in 20 years.
In addition, David, you don't believe that this plan will have any impact on, a real impact on emissions?
Well, it'll have an impact on emissions, but it won't make a noticeable difference in 2050 on the world temperature. It will cut down emissions, but how much will it cut down? Global temperatures go down, and there's no debate on this. From Waxman-Markey, 0.05 of a degree at the most. That's using the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's sensitivity, which some people are debating. At the end of the century, 0.2 of a degree.
But that assumes that nobody else takes any action, and we just heard.
If we want everybody else to take action, we include
talking
the
while you were
cost of them.
interrupting.
You interrupted me a bunch of times.
As Susan just said, China is poised to announce that it's going to become a leader in this effort. They're already ahead of us in wind power. They're already ahead of us in solar power.
Your point, Dan, is that there will be benefits economy-wide of all the energy moves.
And many nations are going to be joining in.
Then we should include the cost to all of those nations. Then we need to include the cost to everybody. China has made it very clear they're not going to do anything to hurt their economy. They're going to tell you they're cutting this, and you can be sure they will generate the numbers to prove it.
Okay.
Here's the difference, Dave. When China does something, because it is a dictatorship, it is an autocratic system, when they put something in their 5-year plans, like increased efficiency, it happens.
No. The numbers come out. The numbers they give you 5 years later pretend that it happened.
Then how come U.S. firms are putting facilities in China to build wind turbines and solar panels? Are they just going to be pretending to do those things?
No,
is that what you're
because your
suggesting?
subsidies are going to help them make them profitable. Because of these programs that we have. No, that if you're going to make windmills, make them in China. That's where they're going to go. You're going to make solar panels, they're going to be made in China. You
those
just proved
solar
that.
Panels and
you're always talking about the American jobs that can't be shipped overseas. You just proved your point is wrong.
No, those solar panels and wind turbines are going to be for Chinese domestic consumption.
And also for here. We're going to be, any panels we get here primarily.
Well, only if you get your way.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, gentlemen. I'm sorry. We will keep on checking on both of all the different calculations on the cost of cap and trade as we get closer to legislation. Thank you so much, David Kreutzer, Heritage, Dan Weiss from the Center for American Progress Action Fund. We appreciate your points.